This week, our castaway is the rock singer, Gary Glitter. A fashion note, Mr. Glitter, who is cheerful but subdued, is wearing a black jacket, black trousers, and a bow tie that's black and white. This is in honor, of course, of Radio 4. Now, what's the first one you've got on that select little pile of 8?
Well, the first one, Roy, is Glenn Miller, and it's In the Mood.
Why do you choose that?
I chose it because I feel that I like to start my day off on the island, and I think it's a great get up and go record in the morning. I mean, if you've got to put a record on to get your action together, you need something like In the Mood. It's a march record. It gets you bubbling about. That's why I like it. My life is very different today from 1972, 73, 74, when I was right at the top. During that time, it was one big merry-go-round. Indeed, I was quite a wealthy man and could always pick up the phone and say, I want an aeroplane, I want a car, I want a Rolls-Royce, I want 25 girls, I want this, I want that. And probably, I think I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. In other words, I have to actually ring up friends who've got Rolls Royces and planes and ask them if they'll lend them to me.
For the 1438 Frankfurt service, please note, this train this afternoon will leave platform number 15. Passengers and staff, please note, the 1438 Brighton service will this afternoon be platform number...
It seems far more honest now because I can walk around the street and people will wave and smile, and I don't have any of the hang-ups that I had then when it was the big star.
I think I better go in here. Thank you.
Rock and roll is a way of life for me. That's one of the reasons why I think I couldn't retire forever. I think that I've only just begun as far as unleashing my talent on the world. Hello. Bette Davis always entered a room or a theatre or whatever, or seemed to anyway in the movies, by way of the old stairs, and that's something I've always kept in my act. I think it's very important actually when you enter the room as well as the theatre, by sort of pausing on the staircase for a while and a little pose, make sure everybody knows you're in the room, and then it gives you an opportunity to look around and see where the best lighting is, where you can stand, where that you're not going to be just sort of left, because as an artist or as a star, you really mustn't make sure that, you know, you're under somebody else's feet. Every move that you ever make should, you know, you can hurry along there, but you must freeze it and you must work to that part. Leave them alone. Let them be jealous, let them be anxious. Show them your back for a while and move to those people there, and then do the same thing over here. So that I feel it's like a love affair. It's a love affair that you have with your audience, and you treat them just like you're caressing a woman. You tease her, you play with her. An audience is exactly the same.
Where were you born, Gary?
I was born in Banbury in Oxfordshire in 1944, or 45, or was it 33? One of those years, anyway, I can't
It was a vintage
remember.
year, anyway.
Yeah.
You moved around a lot as a child, didn't you?
Yes, a lot. Not until about the age of 11.
Yeah.
And then we came to, my mother remarried, and we came to London. I lived in Sutton in Surrey to begin with, and then we went out to Croydon and then into Brixton, and I've never really lived in any one place since, longer than about 2 years. Good. No, you see, you get quite kind of excited about it when you go back to school. Always. It's always good. Yeah. We used to have some funny times there too. Very funny times. It got the highest pregnancy rate in the area. I think we were top 10, certainly always in the top 10. And that's where I first got my rock and roll together. That's where I first got playing with a group. This is Davison Road Secondary Modern School, which I spent 2 years of my, well, the last 2 years of my so-called education. Let's go and have a look inside. I remember my school report. I'm not quite sure what he's going to do, but we feel he's going to do something extraordinary, and he seems to be a leader. I was a teddy boy. I was a yobbo, you know. I was in a B class. I was, you know, I was more interested in what I looked like than and what my hairstyle was like, rather than actually learning anything.
Did you ever have any music lessons?
No. Oh no. Rock and rollers are not supposed to have music lessons.
Now, in those early days, did you get any encouragement from anyone in authority, anyone in the family, or school teachers, or whatever?
I think the only person was my stepfather. He encouraged me rather a lot. My mother always said that, you know, is that you trying to sing, or you sound like you're in pain, which I thought was a great sign. I knew immediately that I was going to make it.
You made your first disc very early on.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was called Alone in the Night, and in fact, if there was an Oscar or a Tony or whatever for the worst record ever made, it certainly would be that one. It was dreadful.
Alone and lost in the night, thinking of hours I held you so tight. The days I spent with you, such heavenly things we used to do.
Bit of school graffiti here, and I've just noticed, ooh, Tessa Kirby, July 1958. I wonder what happened to Tessa. The Immortal Spot, 1957, picture it, a factory. Here I was, standing here. Every night, I used to stand here, and my first words that I ever shouted or sang to the public was, "Stand user standard!" I'll do it again for you. Stand user standard! Of course, we don't have a star anymore, and we don't even have a standard anymore, I don't think. We have the news, or is it the new standard? I don't know. But I used to sell newspapers. That's what I did. I sold newspapers on this corner here, and I used to go to Transport Cafe behind there afterwards. And it was all to earn a few bob to buy a guitar. This is the famous Two Eyes Coffee Bar, at least what's left of it, what it used to be. 1958, 59, that's where I used to sing. It's a great pity. In fact, I mean, the whole Two Eyes Coffee Bar was really about from that length there to the end there, inside as well. You used to get about 200 people in there, all sweaty and everything, but that was the home of rock and roll. If I make a few bob, I might restore the Two Eyes Coffee Bar to its rightful place as... I mean, there's not even a plaque, you know, like they have, you know, Lloyd George lived here or something like that. It should have, you know, this was where Marty Wilde and Cliff Richard and Gary Glitter and people like that should have it on the wall there, don't you think?
Now, the name business, was there a feeling that to change your name would change your luck? Because, well, there was Paul Raven to come and Paul Mundy and Rubber Bucket. Now, there's a splendid name for a chap.
Beautiful name, isn't it? You're right in a sense. Change your name, change your luck. Eventually, we changed it to Gary Glitter, of course.
Together after all that we've been through. They tried to tell you I was not the boy for you. They didn't like my hair, the clothes I learned to wear. They didn't realize that I was strong enough for two. I love you, love. You love me too.
Gary Glitter was a good name. That worked for you.
Oh, it certainly did, yes.
It was your idea, was it?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Now, Gary Glitter, you got all the gear to match the name. Glittering clothes, thousands and thousands of pounds worth.
Yeah.
And one suit covered with light bulbs.
I lost a lot of my clothes, you know, having gone bankrupt and everything. I had to auction them off at Harrods. But we're thinking of making that a sort of an annual event in the social calendar. Because there's no point in thinking, now that's lovely. What do you think of that? That is really beautiful. That's called a gunmetal sequin. I love that. I think that's absolutely, I can't get near it at the moment. I'm a bit too tubby, but I've got to dye it. That's my favourite glitter jacket of all. I don't know why, it's just so tasteful. You see this? Come in nice and close into here and have a look at this. The nice colours that are in there. It's really beautiful, that. I can't get near it. I mean, do you want to see? Oh, I'll put it on. This is the funniest thing. I mean, it looks like... But a couple of years ago, I actually got into that quite well.
This was Gary's. I got this at the auction. It was one that was left over at the very end of the auction. I never bid for it. Only cost £60, so it was cheap.
Well, this just says the Stangles on tour on the T-shirt, and we've got more gear, you know, and we wear this at all the gigs.
And Jeff?
This is, in fact, Gary's suit, one of his old suits. It was sold off at his auction. He had to auction them all because he went a bit sort of broke. And you've got this one, it's got sort of trousers to match the jacket. And T-shirt.
Anyway, this first big success you had, that was rock and roll part 1 and part 2. Now, there's
Correct.
a strange conceit. How did that work out?
Well, I mean, it was a very big success, thank goodness. So we had number 1 pretty well in every country in the world.
Now, a number 1 disc is a very big payoff. How big?
I was fortunate in as much as from 72 to 76, records were selling in vast amounts. I never sold less than 500,000 singles at any one time. Nowadays, they're lucky, of course, to sell 200,000 copies.
Yes, those were the big boom years.
So it was the big boom time, yeah.
Well, a fine mess you got me in, Sue Stanley. Good evening, John. Welcome to Top of the Pops. Welcome indeed. Did you have a nice Christmas, Noel?
I had a fantastic Christmas.
Yeah.
A lot of presents, a lot of trees, plenty of glitter and...
Glitter! What a coincidence!
Good.
Singing Rock and Roll Part 2. Here comes Gary Glitter!
I've been down in the last year, I think further down than I've ever wanted to ever be in my life. But I then found that the kids were picking back up on me. They wanted me to play rock places. The students in universities wanted me to play universities. So in a way I was kind of manipulated by the youth movement, if you like. The youth were saying, oh, yeah, we like Gary Glitter, let's have him. I think that I use theatrics to a certain degree. That maybe I'm parodying a parody of a parody. These are words that I keep hearing and never fully understand myself. I mean, all I actually do is go out there and have a bloody good time, and I think that I'm entertaining the public, and in fact I know I'm entertaining them, and that's all anybody could possibly do.
Well, I'll just use the name Steve Glitter. I've not actually changed my deed poll or anything, but I just use it anyway.
Do you model yourself on him?
Well, not really, no. Just idolise him. Don't really model ourselves on him. We may dress the same and all that, but, you know.
There's only one, he's the leader. The mould was broken when he was made.
He's just fantastic, that says it all.
That's just it. I mean, he's a great person, great stage show, everything else. There's not much you can say about Gary.
Just the same as all the others. He's just a great person, great on stage. Really is a leader.
Come on! my gang. You wanna be in my gang? Oh yeah, you wanna be in my gang, my gang, my gang. You wanna be in my gang? Oh yeah, you wanna be in my gang, my gang, my gang. You wanna be in my gang? I'm the leader, a leader, a leader of the gang I am. A leader, leader, no one like the man I am. I can take you high as a kite, every single night. I can make you jump out of bed, standing on my head. Who'd ever believe it? Who'd ever believe it? Who'd ever believe it? You wanna be in my gang, my gang, my gang. You wanna be in my gang? Oh yeah. You wanna be in my gang, my gang, my gang. You wanna be in my gang? Oh yeah. You wanna be in my gang, my gang, my gang. You wanna be in my gang? Oh yeah. You wanna be in my gang, my gang, my gang. You wanna be in my gang, my gang.
Now, in the middle of it all, on top of this peak, you suddenly decided to chuck it all in and go away on your own. What was the story behind that? It said that it was for love of a lady. Is that so?
Well, that was partly so, and that was very important to me at the time. That was played up very much by the press, because, you know, the press loved to be romantic.
I remember my dad telling me it was on the news. I didn't believe him. Oh, it was awful. It's really, because we never thought we'd see him again.
And now you're going to tell us the real reason why you're giving...
I felt that I owed it to myself to retire. If I was going to make anything happen of this wonderful newfound love that I have.
And this is with a girl called Mary?
Yeah.
And is it more than love? I mean, is there something in it more than love?
What more could there be than love?
Was the retirement a stunt?
Yes, it was. It was also very fashionable to retire. I mean, Frank Sinatra did it for a year at that point. I think David Bowie did it. It was just very fashionable to retire at that time. It was another great show business. I don't know the word I want to use. Show business ploy.
The first thing that probably went wrong was when we were bringing Gary back from the first retirement, that we felt there was no opening left apart from doing cabaret, which, although Gary was very good at cabaret, his heart wasn't in it. We weren't quite sure of how we were actually going to get Gary back when we did the retirement. It took us a bit too long and it was a bit too loose. The financial problem started mainly with the house. Gary was running around with sort of Rod Stewart and Elton John, who all had American earnings, but all Gary's earnings were UK and maybe, you know, a few of the territories abroad based. It's a rich crowd, and he was trying to keep up with that.
How much money are we talking about that he earned in that period of time?
Probably gross somewhere in the region of about £1 million.
What
It
about
took a lot of spending.
What about the tax situation? How did that complicate matters?
The tax situation complicated matters mainly because it didn't get paid. With everything else that was going on, Gary's spending, the shows, the tax, there was nothing left for the tax, which was the wrong situation, obviously. But it was just, the priorities were wrong.
You had this nasty bit of trouble with the income tax people. Eventually, you had to go bankrupt for a rather large sum.
Well, I mean, it might seem a large sum, I think it was £180,000, really.
It does seem a reasonable sum, yeah.
But, you know, with a couple of hit records, it's really a day's wages, isn't it?
Is it?
Oh, yes. No, I'm only kidding. But, yes, I think it was quite a lot. It's primarily all income tax, really.
Yeah. You had to sell all the gear, or a lot of the gear.
I sold a lot of my clothes, and I also had to sell my lovely house in Sussex, which was a great pity, because I never finished the house.
Well, on that dispiriting section of your life, let's break for another record. What have we got?
The song Busted. The second verse, and I quote, goes, I went to my brother to ask for a loan, 'cause I'm busted. I hate to beg like a dog for a bone, 'cause I'm busted. My brother said, no, there ain't a thing I can do. My wife and my kids are all down with the flu, and I was just thinking about calling on you. And I thought that just summed it all up.
My bills are all due, and the baby needs shoes, and I'm busted. Cotton is down to a quarter of a pound, but I'm busted.
It suddenly dawned on me that I was absolutely broke, and I was, completely and utterly. I mean, I didn't have a penny in the world. I was back in England. This is where fame was cruel, slightly, because there was no way I could get on the 159 down Brixton Hill, you know, because everybody knew me. In fact, this house belongs to a friend. He kindly let me have this for a while, but that's mine, and the umbrellas I bought in Thailand, they're mine. They cost about, I think, about 3 and 6 old money, really, which is quite fascinating. The fur coat, I managed to keep hold of that because it's quite a famous fur coat. You know, I have been known to have got drunk and disorderly in places and sang underneath the arches, you know, underneath the arches, one of those. And what else? I've got some crystal glass that I managed to keep, and that's it. That's all, really. But I have myself, in body and soul. In a way, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because from then on, it was just plain sailing. I had to go up. The pop singer has always been generally they've been the ballet dancer type. You know, the Mick Jaggers and the Rod Stewarts have always been long-legged and skinny and very sort of... And I look like a truck driver or a boxer, you know, one of those, mate. So that's, you know, it's quite different than the archetype pop singer or rock and roll singer.
Just get the moisten the skin again, all right?
By the time I go on tour next, which will be quite soon, in fact, I would have lost and shed 2 stone. And that's a fighting weight.
Do you want to touch me?
I have a weight problem, unlike various other pop people who seem to keep the picture of Dorian Gray in their attic. I'm inclined to say, well, OK, you've got to accept me for the way I am, and I think everybody does. I've never had one letter from a fan saying you're overweight and fat. I think we've all got hang-ups with our bodies. We'd all either like to be sort of, you know, the nose is not quite right, or, you know, in my case, my legs are much too short, right? And in fact, the beauty of having the 4 years where I was absolutely on the top was during that time I had these wonderful platform shoes that went up to about that height eventually. So that made me look like, in proportion, my long body and my short legs, suddenly the long legs, and I was, you know, happy with it all.
What's number 8?
It's one of my own records, in fact,
yes.
Called Rock and Roll, I Gave You the Best Years of My Life.
I can still remember when I bought my first guitar. Remember just how good the feeling was. Put it proudly in my car, and my family listened 50 times to my 2-song repertoire. Told my mom her only son was gonna be a star. Bought all the Beatle records, sounded just like Paul. Bought all the old Chuck Berry, 78s and all, and I lay by my record player playing every note they play. And I watched them all on TV making every move they made.
Ever done any camping out?
Camping out?
Yeah.
Me?
You.
Yes, I have, actually. It's always rained.
How are you going to manage on this island? Could you look after yourself?
I think I could. Yes, I think I could.
Could you rig up some sort of hut or shelter?
Yes, I think it depends. Presumably there are trees on the island.
Oh, indeed there are. It's a very attractive island.
It is.
Yeah. What are you going to eat?
I'll eat primarily fruit, I think. Bananas are quite a good thing.
You ever done any fishing?
Round. Yes, I'm a fisherman.
Are you?
Oh, that's my hobby. I love fishing.
All sorts?
All sorts,
coarse
yes.
as well as fine?
Well, coarse, actually, I prefer more than anything.
Good. I think you're very promising material, Gary. Thank you, Gary Glitter, for letting us hear your Desert Island Discs.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.